Hello, Cardinals Nation. Welcome to another edition of Cardinals Nation 24/7 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jared Redwine. I'm joined once again, as always, by my partners in crime, the living legend, Larry Cox, and the bearded dragon, Chris Lawless.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. It's cold here today. I was in the 60s. Ridiculous. I have to kick the heat on tonight. I don't know how you guys are doing, but kick the heat on.
Still around 0 degrees here.
Let's say about 1.5 feet of snow. Not bad.
Oh, man. We got a lot of rocks and sand. Other than that, we're good. Tonight's podcast, we're going to talk about the upcoming prospects in Cardinals Nation. Spring training starts officially tomorrow for pitchers and catchers reporting. Players are starting to arrive today. Today is official reporting day for those players. So we wanted to dive in and give everyone some background on some of our up-and-coming players and also touch base on one or two that you already may be a little familiar with. With the COVID restrictions, they're doing things a little differently with spring training. They're limiting the number of players, so they have invited a few number of the prospects on the top 30 list, so we wanted to dive in and cover those. So everyone's a little more familiar with what the Cardinals have coming in the system, and after taking a closer dive myself today, and I know Chris and Larry feel the same way, we're pretty excited about some of the guys that we have coming up. We'll jump right in. I'm going to mention the first one, and the reason we're going to talk about him is because he's still ranked number one. He hasn't had a full season yet. Someone that everybody knows, but it's Dylan Carlson. Dylan Carlson is our number one ranked prospect. He's only 22 years of age, switch hitter, throws left. We're going to get into the details because we're going to do it for everybody. But 205 pounds, 6'2", 2016 first round pick, 33rd overall. And whenever we talk about some of these players, just to give you people watching and listening an idea, Major League Baseball ranks their prospects anywhere from a scale of 20 to 80. So there is no 100, there is no 0. So if you hear us mention, power, hitting ability, arm, that kind of thing, you're going to hear us fall somewhere within those guidelines. Now, keep in mind, anything pretty much 60 is pretty well amazing. They don't give out 70s and 80s. If Mike Trout were to come back out today, he might be in that ranking, but they don't just give those out, and they don't give people a 20 unless that's just a real weak area for them. So we're going to dive into that, discuss some pitches. So follow along with us. So let me start out with Chris. Chris, Dylan Carlson, what do you think this year? Is this his breakout year? Where do you see him batting in this new order with Arenado and Goldschmidt?
Well, I think with him being the top prospect and getting called up last season, that's a player that is going to get every opportunity to play every day. I don't think they want him in any kind of a bench role at the major league level. They want him to continue getting reps. And I know last season, it was a little different with the COVID season and the minor leagues, totally different. But in 2019, splitting time between Memphis and Springfield, and he did everything that he needed to do, and is why he got the call up. Struggled a little bit, in the beginning, but after getting sent back down, called up, he kind of came to his own. I think he's going to be really fun to watch this year and can hold down really any of the three outfield positions.
Yeah, where do you see him in your batting order? You see him more top of the order guy? I know they project him to be, just looking back at his speed and running ability, they rate him at a 55. His power and his fielding ability are his top ratings. But where do you slot him at? You see him more top order guy. They're saying he's going to be the first one to steal Tyler Green type bases, which was our last good base running prospect, believe it or not. So where do you slot him? Top of the order? You going to slot him back behind? Where do you see him at?
I would have to put him at the top of the order. I mean, he's a switch hitter and he's got good speed. You want him to see some good pitches. So putting him in front of Goldschmidt, Arenado, I think he's going to be more apt to see better pitches than if you put him down lower in the lineup. Now, if he starts struggling, you might be able to move him down in the order just to maybe take some pressure off the kid. But I think going into the season, he should be like probably a 2-hitter.
Sure. No, I agree. I think you got a couple of good points there. Now, Larry, let me kick it over to you. We traded away Dexter Fowler to free up room for Carlson, basically so right field can be his permanent home. You see him coming out of spring training. That's his job to lose. And then where do you see him in your batting order? You're putting the lineup together.
I'll have to agree with Chris. I think him in the two spots probably the best spot for him. He's going to have protection behind him. He's got Edmund probably will be the leadoff, so that gets speed ahead of him. So that I think he's going to see more pitches. With the trade of Dexter Fowler, it definitely frees up that right field spot. Being a youngster, brought up last year to get his feet wet. He struggled a little bit early in the season, and they sent him back down. Brought him back, his head was right, and he excelled in the second part of that. So I think that right field's his coming out of spring training, and I think he'll just dominate this year.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope so. And I think kind of like what we've already talked about in the past, having Arenado and Goldschmidt can only help for his confidence level and self-esteem, getting some better pitches to hit, and hopefully have a breakout season like everyone expects him to do this year. Coming up next, we're going to keep moving right along. We're going to talk about third base prospect out of Arizona, which is where I'm at. So I do have a little bit of an inside track on him. I've been following him close as soon as we drafted him. But third baseman Nolan Gorman, he's ranked number 2 on the Cardinals prospect list. He's only 20 years old, bats left, has good power, right-handed thrower, bills in at 210 pounds, 6'1". He was a first-round pick in 2018. 19th overall. They're saying his ETA to the big leagues is 2022. His strength is obviously going to be his arm. He's got a good arm. He's got good power. He's rated at 60 on the 20 to 80 scale. Just so everybody knows. Overall, he's 55, which is, for us being a number 2 prospect, that's 55 is a really good rating. His weakness is running, which we don't expect him to be stealing a lot of bags. Something funny I did see on Twitter, I saw he posted. I don't know if you guys heard about this or saw, but he said, anyone know where Dustin Pedroia is? Because he was basically, hitting around like, hey, I'm going to be working at second base, which I covered on my my little audio thing I do for fun, my little audio podcast about him. They want to see him this spring in big league camp at second base and also in the outfield. And we know the DH is coming if it doesn't come this year. So he would project very well at that position as well, because I think we have a pretty good third baseman. Larry, I'm going to kick it to you first. What do you think, Nolan Gorman? I don't know if you followed him a whole lot or that closely. We picked him up for over $3 million a couple years ago, and he's just been crushing the baseball. And people see him coming up sooner than later. Where do you see Gorman fitting into the lineup this year, next year? Are you excited to see what kind of power he can bring?
I think Gorman heads into spring training with just basically, hey, look, I'm going to get some at bats. I'm going to see some major league pitching a little bit. Then I think they slot him into maybe either Memphis or Springfield. It just depends. The depth coming out of spring training. What if we have an injury? Who knows what happens? Maybe he gets those reps at second base, like he said, and excels. I mean, the last video I seen of him was taking batting practice. It looks like he's actually slimmed down some since last year, because it just seemed like he had a lot of that baby fat or muscle to him a year ago. And this year, I think he slimmed down. So maybe he's pushing Edmund for that second base position until DH. Who knows? I mean, it's still a nice bat to have off the bench, but you're not gonna put him on the bench. He's got to get reps. So I would say this year he's gonna be in the minors someplace. Maybe a July call just to get him some at bats again. And with that extra 26-man spot, you never know. Sure.
I mean, the interesting thing about this year too is with the COVID season, what we saw happen last year, depending on who tests for what, where, when, this could be a season where we see some of these prospects, the hand gets forced and they make their debut early. So Chris, I'll take it to you. What do you think? Gorman, obviously he's not going to play third. He's known for his bat, his power. He does pull a lot, so he does have the ability to strike out, which is not common in today's game. Talking about playing a little bit of second base. The interesting factor with that is, you don't have to be. Colton Long was an amazing second baseman, obviously, but you don't have to be the second baseman's old at turning those double plays with a runner bearing down on you, because that just doesn't happen anymore. So you're seeing people like Moustakas and these other guys playing second that normally in the game 5 years ago never would have happened. What do you think on Gorman? Where do you see him slotting up? And you think this is kind of a player that they're going to find a spot for his bat regardless, and then complementing that left-handed power bat with someone like, you slice him in between someone like a Goldschmidt, Arenado, and you put that left-hand power bat in between those two guys, where you're going to see some pitches to hit. Could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and he's probably a couple years away from really getting a break at the major league level. I know in 2019, between Peoria and Palm Beach, He had 10 home runs for Peoria and 5 for Palm Beach, about a 241, 256 average in between the two. So, he's still got some growing to do on being a contact like average hitter, but has power. And, when you talk about fielding and him slotting in maybe at second base, the only concerning thing is he has already accumulated 42 errors in the minors. And so he's not as well known for his glove as he is that power bat. I think, like Larry said, he's going to spend this season. More than likely, he'll start in Springfield, but he could start in Memphis. I don't think he'll get a chance to get called up this season. They're going to probably give him every chance to see what they have in him before making a move like they did with Carlson. Still young, 20 years old. A lot of people, because they've heard his name, are ready to see him. But I still think he's a little ways away from making a major league debut.
Sure. And I don't want to downgrade his defense. They even say that he's not very afoot at third base, but he makes all the required plays. What helps him in that aspect is a strong arm. And with a strong arm and good fielding ability, not a lot of range, you could see him definitely ended up maybe even in a place like left field. Left field's probably going to be a make or break year for like a Tyler O'Neill or Thomas or some of those guys. But in the next year or two, people are going to start to grow a little weary with that. You could see him plot anywhere, and with the DH coming, who knows? But it's exciting whenever you have somebody with some raw power like that, especially Busch Stadium, not seeing a ton of home runs with someone that can actually jack the ball out of the park is kind of nice. We'll move on now to someone that's a little more exciting, and he's a left-handed pitcher, and he's a good friend of Nolan Gorman, so it actually works out pretty well. But you've got Matthew Liberatore. He ranks in at our third-ranked prospect. He's 21 years old, so he's old enough to get a cold one after a game. Obviously, left-handed pitcher, 200 pounds, tall guy, 6'4". Was a first-round pick in 2018, went 16th overall. He's got the same projected ETA of 2022 to come into the big leagues, and he is ranked very well. Everyone says, to give everyone other idea of the ranking, they rank everyone on these scouting reports from 20 to 80. Well, he's ranked as having the best curveball in the minor league system of all prospects. They say he's got the best curveball out there, and his curveball is only ranked going into this year at 60. So it's pretty much top of the bill for the curveball. His fastball is a 60, curveball 60, throws them both well. Overall, he's rated at a 55, and he's one of the top prospects in all of baseball. And I think he may be the top left-handed prospect, or he's right up there at the top. I mean, this is where something you could see, in my opinion, someone like him coming up a lot sooner. You've got a good season. You got Waino, you got Yachty. Somebody gets hurt. You're making a playoff push. A left-handed guy with a nasty curveball like that. I mean, I was showing me and Larry watched a video earlier today where he was just throwing that thing in the dirt, making guys look foolish and going down on one knee. When you see a guy with that kind of ability, again, he's out of Arizona. When you see a guy with that kind of ability, it's pretty exciting. It gets you exciting. So, Chris, if you get a guy like Liberatore in the next year or so, that's could be the equivalent of going out and getting a big name pitcher, someone bigger than Odorizzi, or of that nature. Where do you see he could potentially, especially with COVID, he could definitely be a bullpen call up at some point in time this year. Probably going to be a starting rotation guy somewhere. They're not going to want to waste his talent in a bullpen to start the season. Kind of like Larry was talking earlier with Gorman. You're not going to bring him up to sit him down, and how we did with Carlson last year. You don't want a guy like that on the bench. Where do you see a potential arm like his coming into play this season, or even maybe a rotation guy after Kim leaves, being a left-handed starter in a rotation? The Cardinals could be figuring that for next year, but where do you see him, and what have you seen on him? What excites you about Matt?
Well, a lot of people, when they first heard his name, the comparison all last season is we acquired him in the trade that sent Jose Martinez and Randy Arozarena. And because of the way that Arozarena blew up, it was like, this kid better be something. So there's a lot of pressure from our fan base on, is this kid going to perform? And, he's 21 years old, like I said, a left-handed pitcher, has a fastball that touches 95, a great curveball, a low 80 slider. I think he's got some filthy stuff. Any video I've seen on him, he looks really good. I don't want him to fall victim to what a lot of these, guys that are in our bullpen are basically all starters that have just converted into relief roles. I think they've said has the potential to be a mid-rotation arm. I wouldn't want to rush him into a starting role, but at the same time, do you get your feelers out by calling him up and having him in a bullpen role to start? I don't know that we'll see him this season to start, but I could definitely see something in the full season where he does get a call up and maybe does plug in the bullpen or get a fifth starter spot, to give a guy a day off.
The good thing about the Cardinal system, I think, is we don't have to rush a guy like this. Normally we're dying for left-handers. KK did it. I think everyone forgets when they talk about how weak our rotation is, Larry, is how KK was very good last year. We've got Genesis Cabrera's number one fan, Chris Lawless. We've got Tyler Webb, who was solid for us last year. You've still got Andrew Miller in the bullpen. So I don't think you need to rush this guy, but he's really got some amazing stuff. And the good thing about him is he's got a mid to high 90s fastball, which they're wanting to bulk him up so he can hopefully add a couple ticks to that. And then whenever you're throwing that 70-mile-an-hour curveball, like we see much with Adam Wainwright, Wainwright is still an effective pitcher because he's able to mix speeds and different pitch types, and it throws people off. If he's throwing 92, but then he's throwing a curveball in the high 60s, low 70s, that's a huge variance of change of pace. It's hard for a lot of these hitters nowadays to make that adjustment. Larry, what do you see? Do you think we need him now? Would you rather wait and see what we have, or maybe in a COVID season we see him sooner than later, or wait and see how we are in the playoffs? I mean, maybe this is kind of an arm you bring up if we're making a push. What say you?
Well, we always have that COVID issue. I mean, what if we get hit by COVID and we lose 4 or 5 pitchers out of the bullpen, or maybe a starter goes down or whatever? But we always got to remember the one thing the Cardinals have done is we've excelled at plugging in those pitching holes. Even the starters, we have a lot of guys that are down the minors. They could come in and start and get some innings and not put that pressure on this kid. But in the back of my mind, I said, I kind of like to see him get a chance to pitch to Yachty a little bit before Yachty retires. And not only that, but how good would it be to have this kid sitting on the bench learning from old Uncle Charlie himself? So that's the only downside I see about the impending retirement of our 2 battery mates coming up, that this kid's not going to be on the bench with those to get that. Whereas like a Jack Flaherty, we always seen him on TV bending Bob Gibson's ear whenever he was in the dugout. So those are kind of the things I always look at beyond just his time is slotted here or there. But like Chris said, the days of old, Tony La Russa and Duncan, what they did was they always brought those kids in and they served as middle relief or long relief guys. I mean, even Wainwright, stepped in as a closer. I don't know. I think he won a World Series, I think maybe. But Carlos Beltran, who? Oh, wait a minute, what? And that's the thing is you got to keep him stretched out if you're going to start him. So, but who knows? I mean, they play that shuttle game anymore. Who knows?
Yeah, I was just thinking, if it turns out to be a season where you're competing, much how Wainwright did in 2006, maybe depending on your need, we actually have a good bullpen, so it may not be necessary at all. So we'll move right along to the next guy, our 5th-ranked prospect, another left-handed pitcher, 23 years of age, Zach Thompson. And Zach Thompson is someone I know that we've talked about a little bit amongst ourselves, but I think a lot of Cardinals Nation doesn't know too much about Zach Thompson, but he's a 23-year-old left-hander, 215 pounds, 6'2", so he's got a tall frame, decent body size. He was a first-round pick in 2019, 19th overall. They're saying 2022 for this guy, so he's tagging right along with the rest of his classmates, and he's got a above-average curveball again, also good fastball, good slider. He comes in ranked at 50. He's a top. They thought he was going to be a top 5 pick, but he fell down in the order coming from Indiana Prep from 2016. But another good left-handed pitcher. So we've got a lot of options. Chris, have you had a chance to take a look at anything Zach Thompson brings to the table? And what are your initial thoughts about having 2 top left-handed guys in our top 5 prospects? That any team would love to have any of these guys. We're in a pretty good spot in having 2 of them.
Right. And, the fact that you've got 2 of them, it's kind of like a 1A and 1B type of situation where Liberatore, I'm not sure even gets the first call up between the two. Zach Thompson, from what I've seen, throws real well. Almost some of his stuff looks like Austin Gomber, who, just got traded to the Rockies. But Zach Thompson, University of Kentucky, he pitched 90 innings, 130 strikeouts, had a 2.40 ERA. Got a fastball, slider, curve, and all plus pitches. I think he's definitely on the radar of maybe having the first call up over Liberatore, and maybe that some of that is the age difference that he's 23, but he's got nice stuff from the videos that I've seen. He mixes his pitches well. That's one thing, that he's not just a thrower. He's already got a knack for being able to mix pitches, and I think he'd be a welcome arm, and maybe
good quality pitches too.
Yeah. And he may get a call up by the end of the season, or I'm not sure if he starts the season in Memphis, but you're going to see a lot of him and Liberatore in our future.
Yeah, when he's got, at least he's got 4 solid pitches. He throws 3 throws well: the slider, the curve, and the fastballs, upper 90s. He was actually drafted. The reason he fell from a top 5 prospect was he came into the draft whenever we drafted him, had a prior elbow injury, because he was drafted originally by the Tampa Bay Rays, a lot of Rays connections here, and he had failed his physical originally. So then with those elbow injuries, so we got Liberatore from the Rays also. But then when he came back into a draft with us, we got him. What stood out to me, Larry, and I want to come to you with this is get your opinion. This kid, not only does he have good pitches, he's got the curveball, the fastball, he's got a slider, but he's got good control, which is something you don't hear from. Usually you have to hear these guys focusing on getting their control through the minor league system. But 130 strikeouts so far and just 34 walks. And this kid pitched actually down here in Tucson where I'm at. He was a Wildcat. So when you got 4 pitches and you can mix in a high 90s fastball and you're locating those pitches, I mean, that's got to get you pretty excited about it. This guy being in a possible rotation. What say you, Larry?
The biggest thing is that coming in with him is, again, it's that he's a little bit older. He has that college experience behind him. He was still able to come in and throw 100 innings between the two, between the low A ball and the prep league and all. But he's around the strike zone, which plays really well with our defense. So, because we actually want batted balls. The strikeout is, boring. I think I've heard that somewhere. And chicks dig the long ball and the great plays at third, Mr. Nolan. So that's the biggest thing is if he's around the strike zone, let hitters get themselves out. It makes it efficient innings, keeps your pitch count down, and we definitely have the defense this year.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up keeping his pitch count down, because he actually is one of few pitchers to throw 100+ innings between college and pro ball both. So he's a workhorse. He's able to go out locating pitches and having quality pitches. Keeps your pitch count down, lets you go deep into games, which everybody wants. It's hard to find nowadays. You got a pitcher going 6 innings. Everybody's jumping up and celebrating. He's projected to be, mid-rotation guy, maybe a number 3 starter. So that's a pretty good deal, and I'm pretty excited about both those guys and their left-handed pitchers, which is something we've had a hard time finding. We had to go overseas to get the last one, KK, and he did well for us. But other than that, we haven't had one since Garcia, and he was okay for what he was, but he wasn't anything that we set the world on fire with. So moving along, we're going to go to another infield guy. We got a first baseman. We got Lucan Baker. He's ranked 21 out of our top 30 prospects. 23-year-old kid, bats right-handed, throws right. Big boy, 280 pounds, 6'4". He was a 2nd-round pick in 2018, number 75 overall. His ETA, according to MLB.com, is this year. I don't know where he would go, because I keep forgetting we got that Nagowski, whatever.
Nagowski, yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he is known for being a good hitter. So I guess a lot of it maybe it depends on where the DH is at. He was also rumored to be in the Arenado trade and wasn't. But he's got a good throwing arm. Speed, he's ranked at 20. So obviously we got a slow guy. He's not going to be obviously run at 280 freaking pounds. He's not going to be out there, or he's not going to be running. He's about to run with the damn piano on his back. What he's doing. But he's got a good arm. He's got decent power. Looks like he can hit okay. Um, Larry, where do you see Luke and Baker fitting into this lineup, or don't you? Do you maybe see him being a trade piece like we just had? Maybe that's why he was so rumored with Arenado. With Goldschmidt being around for the next 4 to 5 years, this kid's already 23. Immediate projection. Then you have Carp on the bench. I don't really necessarily know if we have a room for this guy. What say you? Where do you see him?
With Baker, I think that the fact that he's got all that power, he's 23 years old. He's another product from Texas, so him and Carp have that advantage. They're both not real speedy, but this kid could actually buy time for Gorman. He could be that guy that's there's a stopgap between Gorman not having to come up next year as a DH. Maybe gives Gorman another short time as in the minors to refine his craft at second base. Who knows? But with his power, the times I have seen this kid hit, I mean, he just unleashes. And that's the big thing with it. He had a couple of years where he was plagued with injuries. He broke his fibia. Then he went through some other issues in 2017. So there's some issues there they're kind of concerned with, but who's not looking for a power bat DH someplace in the American League? Or like you said, the DH comes in 2022, maybe is just trade bait, or, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it's always good to have that big power bat in reserves. So
it's kind of like you said. I'm glad you brought up his injury history because he's either hot or he's not. He in the Florida State League, he started off hitting 213 with a 302 on base percentage with 5 home runs in the first 92 games. And then he finished the season hitting 340 with 403 on base percentage. So he's hot or not, but Larry brings up a good point. Injury plague, hot or not, but this could be somebody like a Gorman buy time if you need someone to come in and maybe be a bat from here or there, pinch hitter late in the offseason, someone that can come in with a little threat when you got a big boy like this guy. What do you think, Chris? Where do you kind of see that too? You can bring up a guy like this and have a little bit of a threat, but not overexpose him too much so he doesn't become strikeout prone, and then gives your other guys a little more time and they're not riding the bench when they need to be playing every day.
Right. I know one of the biggest knocks against him is his speed and the fact that he's, an average fielder at best, but obviously he's not known for that. He does have pop in his bat. But when you do have Goldschmidt as your first baseman, John Nagowski is kind of the backup reserve, I guess, at this point, because Matt Carpenter will probably slide over and spell Goldschmidt. I don't really see a spot where Lucan gets to get called up this season. Even if you have the DH, I think with the number of outfielders that we have and on giving guys days off and Matt Carpenter coming in, there's just there's not a spot that I can see him coming in, and eventually he may be trade bait. But like Larry said too, he could be a stopgap if for some reason Gorman has a year where he struggles a lot and isn't ready to get a call up even next season. Maybe he's somebody that you hold on to and see what he does in the minors this year.
Yeah, I agree. It gives you time to develop some of those other players whenever you got a guy like him. And the thing I know the Cardinals are most impressed by is his ability. I guess he's came in with a real positive edge, and he's been working really hard on trying to improve his defense and be adequate at first base. But as long as Goldschmidt's there, that position is going to pretty well be taken, and you're not gonna change out that bad in the defense. Coming up next, we got another right-handed pitcher. We got Roel Ramirez. He's our 26th ranked prospect, 25 years old, right-hander, 235, 6 foot. We got a lot of big boys. 8th round pick in 2013, so he's been around for a while. He was up, and then they kind of went down in the projections. His ETA of arrival was last year, and I don't remember if he made a debut or not. It's hard. I didn't actually go look at that, but I know he's got a pretty good fastball. It's his best pitch. He throws a splitter that's ranked pretty well. Roel Ramirez, he's ranked pretty well. I mean, he's lower than a lot of the other guys we've talked about, like Whitley and those guys. He was invited to big league camp, like we mentioned all these guys have, or else we wouldn't be talking about him. But where do you see a guy like Roel fit in? I mean, we went and got Quezada and added him to the 40-man. I don't know if maybe we have he was a former Rays guy as well. There's another pitcher that was attached to the Rays. Where do you see a guy like fitting in there, Chris? I don't really know. Me looking at, I don't know where he fits, but I know you follow these pitchers pretty close. I don't know if you know something I don't.
No, he's another one that he came over with Genesis Cabrera and Justin Williams in the Tommy Pham trade. He's got 3 really good pitches, a fastball, slider, and a split. I could see him being more of a multi-inning relief pitcher than to getting, many spot starts or any kind of a starting role with the team. At 25 years old, I mean, he's older than some of these others that are on the list, and you would think he might get a nod ahead of them on just seeing what he can do. Given that he is a strike thrower, and his fastball, he has a little bit of control issue with, but it's an explosive fastball. So I could see him being somebody that comes in and maybe gives you a couple innings here and there, but more slotted for a bullpen role than any other position.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I saw in 2019 when he finally got to AAA, it seemed like he improved as he moved up through the minor leagues, averaging over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. And I saw that too with the multiple innings. Larry, what do you think? I mean, I see a guy like Ramirez being up. They're going to do the 26-man roster with a 5-man taxi squad this year. On that taxi squad, you got to have a catcher, but then these double headers that we're probably going to have with this season at some point in time. Not as crazy as we were before, but just like Chris was saying, he can pitch. He's a relief guy, not really a starter. He can pitch a couple of innings. That a relief guy. We could definitely see him maybe making a call up or being on that taxi squad this year. What say you?
Ramirez did make his major league debut last year.
Okay,
his ERA is only 81. He pitched 0.2 of an inning and gave up 4 home runs.
Oh yeah, I thought his name.
I say everybody remembers this guy now.
Yeah, that was against the White Sox.
That was exactly right. Yep, he pitched 0.2 of an inning, got base on balls, 1 strikeout, and then he gave up the 4 home runs, and it was 6 hits on that. So, yeah, he did not. He had a memorable starting, but so did the Wild thing, though. Hey, look how the Indians end up in the. Oh, wait a minute, different sport. But no, I mean, a kid like this again. Tampa Bay had him slotted as a starter at first. When they moved him over to relief pitcher, that's when he excelled. Like you said, a pitcher that hits the 90s can pitch multiple innings. The thing is, you got to remember, you got that 3 hitter or 3 batter minimum now. So a guy like this can come in and get outs. Unfortunately, he didn't against the White Sox, but it's a learning experience, and he'll bounce back. And I see the invite to spring and him getting some time and maybe calming down. And like you said, the taxi squad's probably will end up this year. And you never know. I mean, an injury, that's, the next man up there, you just never know. Yeah,
I mean, you never know. And I figured he had made his debut. I knew his name sounded familiar, but I didn't remember him being that guy. We all remember him. That's fortunate for him. And
that guy.
Sometimes these guys have to get a little bit of a wake-up call. They come from the minor leagues and they say, "Oh, I was striking out 10 batters an inning. Just going to go up here and throw strikes." It's a little different when you get up here to the big leagues, and he found out the hard way. Unfortunate for him. I hope he can bounce back from that, and that doesn't stick in his head. But I guess we'll probably find out this year. We got a lot of pitching depth, and I would say he'll probably get another chance as long as he's hanging around. So I guess we'll see what happens there. Coming back now, Chris, I want to mention to you, we got another third baseman on the list. We got Evan Mendoza, who I'm a little familiar with and kind of checked in on several times. He's ranked 29th on our prospect list out of the top 30. Something I also did want to mention with some of these last guys like Ramirez and Mendoza and Roberts and these guys, they all did. The ranking came out officially about a week ago, but all these guys moved down a slot after we picked up Ali Sanchez from the Mets. Apparently, we and Chris talked about him the other day on a little bonus edition episode. He's ranked higher than we thought, and a lot of it has to do with his good contact and his defense. So, pretty good pickup by the Cardinals. A lot of people didn't expect the guy to be one of our top prospects, but he is. So, and he will obviously be in big league camp as well. But we're not talking about him because we did the other day. But it did adjust some of the standings for some of these guys, which was pretty impressive to me. The Cardinals were able to go out and get a decent prospect, a catcher nonetheless, and not give anything up for it. But Mendoza's another one of those guys that kind of got me because we had Gorman, and then you've got Mendoza, and then we got another guy I'm going to talk about coming up later. But 24-year-old, right-handed bat, 205 pounds, 6'2", 2017 11th round pick. He was number 334 overall, so he kind of snuck in on us. His ETA of rivals this year could be another, like Larry said earlier, with Baker. If you need a big boy that can come in and eat up a roster spot, he hits well. He doesn't have a lot of power, but he's a good fielder. He could be a late inning substitution somewhere. Maybe he's a second base substitution late in the game. He's got a good arm, good fielding. He used to be a two-way pitcher for a while when he was in college and stuff, and now he's just focused exclusively on playing the field, not pitching. So that will obviously help him, and I think it has helped him. Chris, where do you see us now? We got Arenado. You start seeing a lot of these third base guys. Gorman's the kind of guy that you find a spot for. Left field, second base. A guy like Mendoza might be left on the outside looking in. What say you?
No, I could totally agree with that. Looking at some of the things that you had talked about, he is a plus defender. Third base is his primary position, but he can play all over the infield and be somebody that comes up and would be able to spell somebody, either being off the bench or something. But doesn't have much power, and he is a line drive contact hitter. The thing I think is a guy not listed on here, Edmundo Sosa, I think is going to be more apt to see major league time than Nevin Mendoza. But at 24 years old, I'd say he's going to be slotted in Memphis, and seeing what he can bring to the table, if he can improve on power numbers. Power is really weak, but he does make contact and can be, I think he's slotted and projected just to be a utility type ball player. So in my opinion, he might be a lighter hitting version of a Tommy Edman or, guys of the past like a Descalso or Greg Garcia. He's just going to be a utility type infielder at best.
Yeah, I would agree with you. But an interesting thing that I noticed when I was checking into him today is Larry. They say he's got good hands, good footwork all over the infield, and we obviously have a need, which Chris brought up Sosa, but he was a standout at the alternate training site last season, which made them put a little more focus on him. But this is a guy maybe could find a way to sneak his way on the team and come up and be a backup shortstop, even they say, and they're going to try to get him some more reps there. So a guy like this, due to necessity or need of, and how well Sosa does, could find him in a pretty good spot after we basically don't hear much about him. What are your thoughts, Larry?
His first year, 2017, he actually was the New York Penn League batting title champion. Hit 370, and like Chris said, he's not really a power bat, so he is more of that lanky body that he's going to spray it to all fields. He's really got soft hands. He said everywhere I've read or everything I've seen of him in videos or anything else is it does show his range a little bit better than most players of his age. He understands the game. He's actually a really good above average base runner as well. So there's always the need for that extra runner late in games, especially now you start with that runner on second in the extra innings. So that might be a position that, he fills that need, him or Sosa. You maybe keep both. It just depends, again, what happens in spring training. Maybe he comes in, he sprays the ball, and he forces his way on the team. Another thing is he ends up at Memphis again for another year or shuttle back and forth again. I mean, we kind of tend to lean toward that shuttle back and forth between Memphis and St. Louis. A lot of these players, maybe they just serve as depth in the minor leagues. We don't know. We just have to kind of see how they mature as they go by. This is a kid that I kind of think that he's that, I don't know, maybe a Mabry type hitter that just kind of sprays the ball over the field. And like you said, he's that utility infielder that we need, that we're always missing, the Descalzos, or maybe he's willing to get dirty and play that position. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good insight. And some of the stuff I didn't even know, but we'll keep moving on down the line here. We're going to go to right-handed pitcher Griffin Roberts. He's our ranked 30 out of our top 30, so he's going to round us out with our conversation on the guys we don't know much about coming into spring training. 24 years old, right-hander, 210 pounds, 6'3", second-round pick, 43rd overall in 2018. They have an ETA, a possible rival of this season. He's got a couple of different pitches he can throw. He throws three of them well. Fastball, slider, changeup. This guy's a little more interesting, Chris, because he comes out. He was a great bullpen arm and was doing well. And then he got tested positive for the banned substance, and then came back and got rocked around a little bit. That seemed to pick himself back up with a good performance in the Arizona Fall League. I don't know if you've read much about him, but bullpen arms, the Cardinals always find a way to produce good ones. What have you heard on this guy, and do you see him coming into anything, or what's your thoughts on him?
Just kind of when I looked up some things was about what you mentioned, about the banned substance and him serving that 50-game suspension. He's got three pitches, fastball and a plus slider, changeup, 24 years old, right-handed pitcher. I don't see with guys that we haven't listed tonight, like a Cody Whitley or a Jake Woodford, I don't see him getting, much of a chance to get a call up necessarily this season. But it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the minors and if he can prove himself with a better ERA and a little bit more control of what he does have. So he looks good on the mound from pitching that I've seen, but I think there are guys ahead of him that are going to keep him down in the minors for a little while.
Yeah, Cardinals are usually good with arms, and you can never have too many arms, but this could be a case to where they see how he performs this year, Larry, and see where they go from here with this guy. He does have a good slider. The Cardinals think he could be a starter, but a lot of other people project him in the bullpen. With guys like Liberatore, and we've got Thompson and stuff coming up, I mean, you figure he's just going to be an extra bullpen guy that maybe in the next year or so, depending on the moves we make, just could be lost in the shuffle.
The biggest thing that just looking across all of the people we've talked about so far, all these guys, they're all about that same age. And so then you look across the board at some of our players that we have currently on the roster. There's that a little bit of a drop off in a couple of years. So those are the kind of guys you see maybe as a fill in, maybe 2 years from now, maybe he steps in as a Carlos Martinez spot that just kind of bounces between the rotation or a bullpen arm. Like you said, his slider was ranked as probably his best pitch. Coming out of the college draft, they said that it was probably the best breaking ball in college at that time. So, and then, then the fall league, they said he turned up a little bit in Arizona. You didn't see him play in Arizona? You disappoint me now.
I did
You
not.
watched all those games. Oh,
No.
You got nothing else to do out there in the heat, right? Oh. So, I just think that a kid like this, we don't know much about him just because he's not lighting up the gun. He's not hitting 100. And he's not a big name, so he just kind of fell through the cracks. But the fact that he's jumped up on the board as well as he has, that proves somebody somewhere is really watching this kid play. So maybe they know something we don't. I mean, that's their job to evaluate talent more than ours. So I guess it's just, like I said, it's just seeing what they do come out of spring training and where they slot him. I mean, a kid like that, maybe he ends up in Springfield instead of Memphis to gain his confidence. He's pitching against younger players and getting his confidence level up. So
Sure.
Just have to see how it bounces back and plays out.
Yeah, no, and the Cardinals could always use arms with that taxi squad and doubleheaders. And like last year, I think we saw record numbers of players making their debuts. So this is a guy we could see regardless. So that rounds out the top of our picks for getting an invite to big league camp. They changed the way that they're doing camp. Everybody used to come and they would do minor cuts, but due to COVID, they've restricted that, and it's lesser people are allowed, no special instructors. Edmonds and Ozzie and those guys won't be making their rounds to spring training this year. Then we came up with a couple of favorites, and Larry picked the best one out there. A lot of people keep talking about Kinsner, but Larry, I'll start it off with you because it's your pick, but catcher Ivan Herrera, he's number 4 on our prospect list, only 20 years old, bats right, throws right, 220, 5'11". He was an international draft signing in 2016. They're saying his debut will be next year, which makes sense with Molina and Kinsner. This is probably a kid we won't see this year, but but he ranks very well hitting. They see him as a 15 home run guy, good power. The only thing he's not is quick. 30 net, but his arm is at a 55. Fielding is very good. This kid looks pretty good, and he's hit well where he's been, even at a very young age. He was like one of the youngest pitchers going throughout the minors on all the rosters. And then they sent him to the fall league, and he did well there. Where do you see Herrera? I think pretty much the time of Kensner as our number one guy is starting to fade away, and we're seeing Herrera come up. What do you like about him, and where do you see him coming up, especially next year, Larry?
Next year, I see him possibly at Springfield to start the year. It just depends on, do we carry the third catcher this year, or do we push the kid that we got from the Mets to Memphis? Because you want Herrera to play as much as he can play with nobody in front of him. Maybe he splits part of a year, who knows, between A ball and or double A and triple A. The biggest thing with him is just the knowledge of the game. Yachty said he's probably one of the better knowledgeable catchers he's been working with in our system. So he's gotten high praise from Yachty. That means a lot right there. He was signed as a 16-year-old. That's kind of impressive as well. He showed enough as a 16-year-old to hold his own against some older kids, and he's from the Panama area. So there's a lot there. His arm, they say his glove is improving every season since he's been up, and it's not below average by any means, his defense. But the fact that he's still learning and improving, that's the biggest thing. A lot of these guys, they think they hone their craft. They're the best at their league they're in, and they don't realize they still have to get better to get to the majors and bump off a Yachty out of his pedestal. So as long as a kid's willing to be coachable, I think that's the biggest thing we miss nowadays in major league sports is a kid manageable? Will he come in and work with the coaching staff and understand the game and the nuances? And this kid, from everything I've seen, shoe him in, trade Knizer, he's gone. I mean, but they're saying they'll probably split time in 2022. And so who's the backup? We'll just see, I guess, come out of the spring training for the next 2 years.
Yeah, and Chris, the thing about him is they knew he was going to be a good hitter. But what they're really impressed with the organization is his ability to learn and the work ethic he's put in behind the plate. He still has to work on his catching and throwing a little bit, but he's made huge strides behind the plate as far as like blocking pitches and trying to become a better defensive player, which is something I think being around Yachty for another year will definitely help him out. I would see him probably starting in AAA this year, but like Larry said, he's not going to be a guy you think he's going to come sit around, but he's a pretty good prospect, and he kind of reminds you a little bit of Yachty, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think he's probably on par right now to be a little bit better of a hitter than what Yachty was at that age. It does kind of suck that, Kisner is got a spot over him. And, when we look at Cardinal catchers in the past, we're used to, it started with Matheny or Pagnazzi, Matheny and Molina. We're going to look for the next the catcher that's going to be the next Cardinal catcher for like 10 years. A Kisner, I think, would be more of a stopgap that's going to get us through until Herrera is ready to take the reins. But anything you've seen from the kid, I mean, he's very athletic. He's baseball savvy, very good defensive catcher, and can hit. So I think that's probably going to be the future of the Cardinals. Now, that being said, we also don't know that Molina won't want to come back another year next season. So if that's the case, then you're really in a pickle with, Kisner and what to do with Herrera or making Kisner expendable in a trade. But I'd say he's a couple years away, and he's going to be the catcher of the future.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't see him being on the big league club this year at all, bar a serious injury. I see you're gonna have Kinsler's going to be there regardless, and depending on how Yachty performs, you may see Kinsler a little more. Sanchez is on the 40-man already, so he's going to be your third option or your taxi squad guy. But Herrera is someone definitely to look forward to. I'd say he's probably 2 years out. I'd say he'll probably be spending quite a bit of time in Memphis this year, maybe starting out in Double-A, like Larry said. But it's nice that we have these catching prospects coming up with someone as good as Yachty, and we've always had good luck with that. And we were just ranked recently by the Athletic as having the best organization developing catchers, and I think that shows with who we've had with Simmons and McCarver and Yachty, and Matheny was there for such a long time. So it's something that we can kind of brag and hang our hat on. So, and then we're going to go around with, because Larry, he's got to be extra special. He wanted to pick two, so he's got a second guy. Angel Rondon. He's ranked 13 on our list. He's 23 years old, right-hander, 205 pounds, 6'1". He was signed the same way as an 18-year-old of the Dominican Republic back in 2016. They're saying he has an ETA of this year, which could very well happen again with kind of going into a season of unknowns. But he's pitched pretty well from what I've seen and read about him. He had a breakout season in 2019. He was a mid-season all-star at Palm Beach. So he's pitched well in the Springfield and Texas League. He had a good ERA. He was a minor league pitcher of the year. One year I thought I read somewhere, but I'm not 100% for sure. But
last year,
Larry, what made this guy stand out to you, Larry, that you wanted to put him on your list, that you couldn't just pick one guy like me and Chris? You had to pick two. You must love him.
I am the legend, so we'll go there. And
True.
then beyond that, this kid just throws hard. I mean, the biggest thing with this kid has always been everything I've read or seen of this kid is if he ever figures out how to throw strikes, then this kid's unstoppable. And a lot of times, we spent how many years we wait on Carlos Martinez to put it all together, or Jaime Garcia, those guys that, when they get in a situation, they folded. Well, this kid, he does give up 3.3 walks per 9 innings. So that's his downfall. But when he's on, this kid is lights out. And he did pitch 115 innings last year, or 19, I'm sorry, in Springfield. So he did pitch a lot of innings. So he's another starter workhorse. So that's the good thing about the kid. And he does mix up the pitches as well. So he's got a lot of growth coming. And he's another kid, you never know. I mean, stick him in the bullpen and just hand the ball and get out of the way, because you got guys like Miller. He's going to be probably gone after this year. So you're looking for those spots, as Webb stick around, or you fill that spot with one of the lefties we talked about earlier for the following year, opening up another right-hand spot. Who knows? But this kid, just like I said, just watching him, the presence on the mound, he comes at you, man. He don't play. And he's just wild enough that you don't want to dig in.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think somebody like him can definitely find a spot because he does have multiple pitches that he can mix, and from what I've read, he's good at mixing pitches and throwing hitters off. And then he's got a unique delivery that I saw earlier today whenever you mentioned that some kind of backside arm action that is very deceptive to the hitters, which works in his advantage. So whenever you got tools and you have a good pitch repertoire where you can mix your pitches up, you can locate well, and you're good at deceiving the hitter. That's kind of a lost art form in baseball. What say you, Chris? What's your take on Angel, and where do you see him maybe slotting in, and maybe he will be here sooner than later?
Yeah, I mean, at 23 years old, and he's got a few good pitches. He was another name that was kind of rumored to be in that Arenado trade, and looking at what he can do on the mound, again, I think he's blocked by guys like Woodford, and it's just really hard to place a guy when we've got so many just like him. And he does have some talent, but I think he's just more fit for the AAA team at this point.
Yep, good points all around. Before we get going any further, it is time for us to do our drawing that we talked about last week, supplied by the legend himself, Larry Cox. A Bob Gibson Hall of Fame statue, which is a very nice piece. I have it in my collection as well. We had several people submit the correct secret answer, but I'm going to turn it over to you guys to go through and pick our winner, make the announcement. And if you're watching and it's you, let us know.
Yeah, I know that we did this giveaway on the Bob Gibson and Lou Brock tribute show, where about midway through, towards the end, Larry had announced that we were going to do this giveaway, and it would be a Bob Gibson Hall of Fame Stadium giveaway, replica statue. And what our listeners would be required to do would be to send us a screenshot of their subscription to the YouTube channel, along with the keyword, which was my grandfather's name, Alvy. We had several submissions. I've thrown them all in a hat, so I will get that hat and draw a name out. But we appreciate Larry's the one that, got this bobblehead, not really bobblehead, but a statue. And, so good work there. And we will draw a name out of this hat, and hopefully they will watch this and know that it's them. And we will reach out and let that winner know. So I've got the Cardinal hat here. It's not a bogus thing. It's not rigged.
Can I win? I want to win. I want to win.
No, I took your name out, Larry.
Say large.
So reaching in this hat because I've got one arm here. All right. It's folded. Let's see. Graham Hicks is the name on the card. And Graham is one of our first YouTube subscribers, and he has left us very kind words on the YouTube channel. We really appreciate him being a subscriber, but also the support and the kind words that he's had, for appreciating what we do, and we appreciate him. So we will be sending this to Graham Hicks.
Congratulations, Mr. Hicks.
Yeah, congratulations, Graham, and thank you, Larry, for supplying the prize for this week. Like I said, it is a nice piece, and we do appreciate. He has said some very nice stuff. We've had a lot of people reach out to us that are enjoying the podcast so far, and I do want to say, we were kind of torn on the idea of doing a Bob Gibson, Lou Brock show, because we knew as great a player as they are, probably going to be the biggest attention grabber. But I will say the neat thing about looking at what we've been doing so far is, we never know what's going to appeal to our audience, and with so many people being in the group and on the page, we have a vast audience. And one thing I have noticed about that video is I was thinking about it too, and we've done very well with the launch of this, and a lot of that's Chris's hard work. But you go in and you look at it and you say, oh, well, that video hasn't had as many views. But also one thing interesting about that video is people that have watched it longer, are putting more viewing time than the other videos, because the people that are engaged and are watching it are probably people that have, saw them play or closer to their time, which is interesting because we want to make this a place for everyone and hopefully give everyone some content. So we go from legends to prospects. So if you guys have a topic you would like to see us talk about or have a question for us, don't forget to send it in to us. You can put it in the comments on the YouTube channel. You put in the comments on the post on Facebook. Send it to one of us personally. We're all pretty easy to find. But we want to make sure we're putting out content for everyone, whether you're a 15-year-old Cardinal fan that's a teenager, or you're in your 70s, been watching them for years. We want to hear your stories and hear what interests you, so we can try to put out a little bit for everyone. And and if it's not something for you, then great, maybe the next week will be, so we don't bore you out anyways. We know our voices can become quite annoying. Chris's especially.
Yeah, sure.
Well, the other thing is that we have the variety now as well. For most of you haven't been paying attention a lot, I guess, that because, like I said, this gets lost in the shuffle. Chris does take everybody's questions from our group, and he has another show where he does by himself that he just answers those questions. And then Jared is also kind of Simon casting. He's doing a thing about our minor leagues and going through some of those prospects, because unfortunately we don't all get to see those guys play all the time. So it's nice to know that they're out there and that somebody's paying attention, and we know those names. I mean, a couple of years ago, we didn't know who Herrera was, or, everybody heard of Gorman and those guys, but it's nice when you're able to have somebody like Jared go through those. And Jared follows the minor leagues. For those of you that don't know Jared very well, he follows the minor leagues extensively. He really does. And especially being in Arizona, he's able to see the fall league, so you can see those players in the fall. So he's really knowledgeable about those minor leagues, but none of us are true experts here. It is our opinions. So agree or disagree, that's the best part about it we're just three guys talking baseball.
I would say, I think I put it on the thing last time, and I appreciate the kind words, Larry. Thank you very much. We're trying to get Larry to do one also, but he's a little hesitant for whatever reason. He's a busy guy. But we do try to put in, obviously you could probably tell we've cheated, but we do put in our work and research. We're not just going off the cuff here. I mean, we do give our opinion on a lot of things, but we do try to give you guys educated and informed opinion. And I would say we're not professional reporters by any means, but we are educated fans and bring something to to everybody. So, we hope you're enjoying the video podcast. Please like it, subscribe. It's how we're going to continue to keep doing things like prizes and stuff, so we don't go broke. Supplying
getting rich off this? Hold on. Wait, we're getting rich off this?
Well, no, that's why we're hoping they subscribe, so we don't go broke.
Okay.
We're not going to get rich. We just don't want to go broke.
Oh, okay.
So due to some research, Chris came up with a good logo as well. Larry did some research on a couple of companies we can work with, and we're toying with the idea of some shirts and stuff. And a lot of people have expressed interest, so that'll be coming up pretty soon. So keep watching out for that. If you're interested in one of those, hit us up and let us know also. But we'll keep moving along here, and we're going to talk about Chris's pick, sleeper pick. He's got a lot. He loves these pitchers. I know he sent Valentine's cards to Cabrera, Whitley, and Woodford. But I know his real man crush Tuesday, is Johan Oviedo. He's our 11th ranked prospect, and he is a good pitcher. If you're going to pick one, this is a good one to pick, Chris. He's 22-year-old right-hander, 245 pounds, 6'5". We signed him in 2016 through the international draft. He's a Cuban prospect. He's got a lot of good pitches. He measures up to be a pretty good starter for us. But Chris, what do you like about Oviedo? What have you seen of him? I know we saw him make his debut, though it was quick, and he was really hyped then. I think he started a couple games for us. But what draws you to Oviedo and want to talk about him today and a potential pitcher for us going down the line?
Well, when I first heard the name Oviedo, I just had kind of seen some videos that was on social media of him pitching down in the minors, and he did lead all Cardinal farm hands and strikeouts with 163, and he got his call up last season. His ERA wasn't the greatest in the Texas League, but he has filthy stuff. And when I've seen him take the mound, he is just huge. He has a huge presence, tall and lanky kid, has 4 good pitches, a fastball that's a plus pitch, curveball that's pretty good, his slider's really good, and has a changeup that he still needs a little work on. But he's just a towering presence on the mound. He's young at 22 years old. I know you kind of razz me when I say I get all in the fields with some of these pitchers, like Genesis Cabrera, I'm really high on. But when I saw this kid come up, and just knowing at 22 years old, the stuff that he has, along with a lot of the scouts saying that he's really smart when it comes to mixing in his pitches, and he's developing quicker than they figured. So I think that's a lot of why he got the call up when he did. And I think we're going to see a lot more of him in the near future.
I think the good thing for him is he kind of got rocked a little bit early in the minor leagues, and that helped him figure it out. But Larry, he is a big, strong guy. He's got good spin rate on his ball. He has a huge extension when he delivers to the plate. I was reading it. It's over 10 feet at certain times. What have you seen about Oviedo? Where do you think he lands with the Cardinals? He's got a huge differentiation for strike to walk it. What do you think? Where's a guy like Oviedo starting? You could definitely see him maybe making the bullpen to start the season.
I think he picks up a spot in the bullpen this year. I mean, with some of the movement going in the off season, I think he's a guy that they're going to have to beat him out of a spot is what I think is going to happen for some of these guys. You get these guys that come into spring thinking that they've earned that right to be in the bullpen. I think this kid's, like Chris said, I mean, his presence, he's there. He's got a fire. You can just see it. He's one of those Cuban players we brought in. He got a big bonus to come in. I think it's $1.9 million. I think I read to come in and play. So the Cardinals, man, they don't like to spend money if they're not going to get it back. So this kid, I think, out of spring training, I think he's on the bullpen. Or at worst case scenario, he's one call away for that shuttle run, like we keep saying. I think that this kid has got so much upside. Again, I'm another fan of Cabrera as well. I think he's another kid that has all that makings of a solid pitcher. The one thing the Cardinals, we know they have pitching, and we know they know how to develop that talent. So that's the upside. Whether we can complain about Mozeliak and things going on in the world, but pitching has definitely been our strong suit for a long time. So I think our draft picks, I think our offseason acquisitions, players we don't even know who they are. I mean, Webb. Everybody's like, who? when he was brought over. The kid's been dominant from left side since he came in. So those are the kind of guys we don't know about. And I think that's why this show's kind of a good thing for us because we do talk about those players that nobody knows. Acevedo's one of those guys that I think you're going to know who he is.
Yeah. Chris knows him.
Chris knows him really well.
Yeah.
Tina wishes he didn't know him. Oh.
Yeah, Chris knows him really well. The restraining order proves that. Moving right along, we're going to go to a kid that I picked that I really like ever since we drafted him, and that was last year. Third baseman, but he's also a pitcher. High school kid named Jordan Walker, our 6th-ranked prospect. He's still only 18 years old. Right-handed kid, 220, 6'5". Still got a little bit of his frame to grow into. He's projected to, make his debut sometime around 2024. He's got a lot of power. He ranks high on the power list, but he doesn't rank really bad anywhere. He was Duke's highest ranked baseball prospect ever. He was committed to them, but the Cardinals were able to draft him and lure him away from going to Duke and coming to be a St. Louis Cardinal. $2.9 million might have helped. And it's got smart parents, so he was smart to take the money. His parents went to MIT and Harvard. This kid he's not going to be a pitcher now, so it's going to let him focus more on what he can do on the infield, but he's a projected third baseman, athletic, big kid. I think he might slow down a step or two once he starts to grow into his frame, but maybe even become a corner outfielder is what they're thinking he's going to project at. But he's a few years away, but big, strong kid, big pickup last year. Good signing, in my opinion, by the Cardinals. I know they wouldn't have drafted him if they didn't think they had a shot in bringing him into the fold early. Still young, and that's what you'd like to see. We're trying to get these big prospect kids into the big leagues sooner than later. I don't know if you've done any research on him or anything, Chris, but what do you see a kid like Jordan Walker? I mean, he could potentially be mid-season trade bait, but I think he's a kid that might want to try to hang on to being ranked 6 already. He's only 18 years old.
Yeah, I think given the age is a top reason to want to keep him when you've got Arenado at third base and you've got Gorman that's third base. But this kid, like I said, he's 18 years old, 220 pounds, 6'5", and already when we talked about the ranking system, they have him at a power ranking of 60 at age 18. And so I could definitely see the Cardinals just hanging on to him. I wouldn't give up on this kid unless there's some huge trade where it's a have to. But I don't think that's happening. I think you're going to see him develop, and even though he's only 18 and a few years away, he's somebody to keep an eye on because he could transition into a different position, or eventually with the DH coming, who knows how that'll play out. If the Cardinals will be like some teams and go out and get an older guy for the DH role, or that be given to somebody like a Nolan Gorman or a kid like this down the line.
Yeah, I know you haven't mentioned him yet because you probably haven't heard of him, Chris, but a guy like Yasiel Puig could also be a potential DH candidate if they go. I don't know. Larry will fill you in.
Oh, the bat licker.
Yeah, we know you don't pay attention to him, but now that VR's gone, we don't have a power bat on the free agent market. So, Larry, what about you? What have you heard about Walker? Big, strong kid, high school kid. Got a lot of growth. Working under someone like an Arenado is only going to probably make this kid better. The power is impressive, and you got to think over time he's only going to develop his other skills and become a more refined hitter. Maybe his power will drop a little bit, but we'd be willing to trade that for for a little tick up in the batting average. He's got a good arm, above average fielder, so maybe he ends up in a corner outfield spot. See where things line up. What do you know about him, or what's your take on what you do know?
The biggest thing with him, just watching some of the videos and just reading some of the scouting reports, the biggest thing with him is just the big looping swing with all the power. He tends to miss the ball a little bit, but that's just expected. 18 years old, that kind of settles down. They're used to going yard with the aluminum bat, and so things have changed.
They got to adjust that breaking ball, don't they?
And that's it, yeah. And I'll say that the off speed stuff really gets him right now. Like, we don't have any outfielders already have that problem. But then you toss in, like you said earlier, maybe Gorman slots in a second base in the future. Well, then there's your DH for the future right there. we don't know. It's always good to stockpile multiple players at one position for years and years. That shortstop, that's eluded us. I mean, we just cannot. Third base and shortstop. I mean, as far back as I can remember, Mazalak, ever since he took over, he's been trying to pick up a good third baseman. Well, he finally did that by making a trade. But again, these kids, you never know. I mean, what if an Arenado gets hurt? You still got to have somebody to play the position. So, that's the thing is that you still have other teams in the minors that you still got to fill positions. And him at 18, you're looking at him maybe a single A, high A, maybe a double A spot, but I doubt at 18. So you got a couple years for him to grow into the position. You never know in 2 years. Maybe Arenado maybe does walk. We don't know. We can't read the guy's mind.
Yeah.
So now you don't have that void because you got a guy coming. So that's the good thing is, being in the insurance world, we're taught the what ifs. That's what my job is. An insurance agent is I make sure your what ifs are taken care of. And that's what Mazalak's done over the last couple of years. We've stocked the outfield. We've stocked catchers. We've stocked starting in the bullpen, and now we're doing the infield. And that's the biggest thing is I like this kid. Like you said, I understand why you picked him.
Yeah. Just for me, and then being 18, being ranked as our number 6 prospect to me was impressive already, being ranked so high. And that's a good point Larry made. You want to draft. The Cardinals have always made a point of drafting the best player available per their standards and ranking at the position, regardless of they have depth at it or not. They're going for the best pitcher they can get, and they're going for pitchers they think they can obtain, just like luring this kid away from Duke and why they went after him, because you don't know what the future holds, whether it be injuries, personal needs, trade type situation. So you go for the best possible player, and this was a good kid to pick up out of high school. And I think we do have a pretty good farm system. It's shown over time with the Cardinals have always been able to field a competitive team, trade away decent players when they've needed to, and you never know what you have coming out of the minor leagues. Just like, everyone says, Rosarena, this and that. We didn't have a spot for him. So he never would have had the opportunity to become the player that he has. And the Cardinals did take that personally, and they've sat back and looked at the way they evaluate players. But our fans are very quick to bring judgment upon a bad move to where it doesn't work in our favor. But as Larry and Chris both already mentioned to everybody earlier, we don't know what Liberatore's going to be whenever this is all said and done. He could go on to be the next Jack Flaherty, the ace of our staff. Rosarena may flop this next year. I mean, you don't know. It's hard to gauge these signings and these trades. So far, you really have to build a track record and look behind and say, well, our front office that we have and our current ownership under the DeWitts has done very well for Cardinal Nation. We're always in competition. We're always pretty much consistently in the playoffs. And they went out and made a big move for a guy like Arenado this year. We didn't trade anyone from our top 10 prospects, even though, Baker was rumored to be on that list. He wasn't. I think at one time Woodford was supposed to be on that list, and he wasn't. So we ended up pretty well. We kept one of Chris's man crushes on the team, Woodford, and we went out and got a great third baseman. So
I had heard as soon as Arenado deal was finalized that Mazalak picked up the phone and called the Angels, and now he's trying to get Trout for 3 bags of balls and a bat. So we're going to see where that goes.
He might be able to pull it off.
I mean, we got some guys that, I don't know, in the Mexican League somewhere that we can trade, right?
We got with the international pick, we had another big international. None of those guys are even on this list because they haven't had a chance to be ranked, but we had a great international signing period. If you guys are interested in it, I'm sure you can find that on STL Today or MLB, but go look at the international draft signings this year. But the Cardinals hit some really good home runs and picked up a good kid at the shortstop position this year. So they just continue to do a good job, and Randy Flores is doing a great job heading up the farm system.
Because I think we picked up 4 shortstops. Because that was, again, that's been our need. I mean, how many years have we tried to fill that spot? And DeYoung was not forecasted as a starting shortstop in the major leagues anytime in the minors.
Chris, that's a good point Larry brought up about the shortstop position. Who makes the Hall of Fame first? Brendan Ryan, Tyler Green, or Pete Kozma?
Oh, man. I think there were so many people that were high on.
It's hard to pick. I know.
Yeah, I know.
I know what you're thinking. You don't want to put it on the spot because probably all three of them.
Peralta. That's my pick.
Well, in his 2 years, I think he did produce more than those guys put together.
I agree.
We haven't had a good, other than DeYoung, we haven't had a good shortstop. I mean, really, since Renteria.
Well, Diaz made shortstop. He was an all-star.
All-star, yeah.
Oh, I mean, consistently. We had Diaz for a year. I mean, what's he doing now? Where's he at? Houston, Toronto? I mean, other than that, then we benched that one loser, Ozzie Smith, so we could get Clayton out there. I mean, that was a great move.
Yeah. Well, we had Renteria. I mean, that was Renteria. Then we ran in. Then we just kind of fell into the guy that
I said Renteria, and Chris berated me and said, "No, what about Diaz?"
Oh, we had Johnny Peralta with his home run power too.
Yeah, but Peralta had a really good year. He was kind of like Berkman came in, had a good year, and he kind of went away. And I think we ended up designating for assignment. But we had our shortstop leave and go to Boston, and we just settled for a guy that ended up being an MVP in the World Series against Detroit. So it all works out like it's supposed to eventually. We have like the kid like Perez that he was, he fell to us from the top of the draft pick to obscurity now. Yeah, Delvin Perez.
Yep.
He's still on the list.
He just fell.
Yeah, he fell. They fall. There's a lot of up and down. There's certain guys on here like Liberatore, Gorman. I think Walker Thompson, Walker Thompson, excuse me. Those are guys you're not going to see move too far on the list. I mean, you kind of know when you've got a decent amount of a sure thing, but we've always been good at evaluating our talent. And just like when we got Matt Holliday, we gave up Dan Herron, Kiko Calero, and Brett Wallace. And Brett Wallace was supposed to be the next big thing, and he turned out to be nothing. So the Cardinals have always been good at evaluating talent for the most part. So, a Rosarena, and if you want to throw Voigt in there, I think, that they can have those two marks against them and still they're going to come out fine. No one's going to lose their job in their front office. Pitchers and catchers are reporting this week. We're recording this on a Tuesday, so they report tomorrow. This should be out to you guys after that first happens, but we're going to give you guys updates going on now. As the season is rolling along, we're going to be here each and every week, give you updates on what's going on in spring training, roster moves, what's kind of going on as far as backfield play, interleague games, or inter-squad games, not interleague, and kind of where the players are kind of shaping up and what the team looks like, and we'll keep you updated. If you don't want to read the news yourself, we'll be glad to give you our preferred summary and give you the points that we like and disregard the rest. But thank you for watching us. Please like, subscribe, share, make a note in the comments. We'll have another giveaway. Probably, I'm going to say, just myself, I'll probably say next episode. We'll mention the next gift, but we already drew a winner today, so congratulations. Thanks to all of you who submitted your information and subscribed. You can subscribe again. Not subscribe again, but you can submit again using the same screenshot showing that you are subscribed. Chris may already have you memorized, but who knows? We'll do it just in case. But keep watching and paying attention for that. Larry, closing comments.
Everybody just needs to keep subscribing. We appreciate all everybody's viewing, and go Cardinals.
Go Cards. Chris, what about you? Closing comments, and where can people reach you away from Cardinals Nation, and where else can we find you?
Well, I really liked this episode. It really was kind of a deep dive into some of the prospects that weren't, well known. So hopefully the viewers that tuned in, they got something from this. You can find me at Cards Nation 247 on Twitter. Our Facebook page is Cardinals Nation 24/7, as well as our Facebook group. My side project that I've been doing is Cardinal Cuts with Chris Lawless. That's on Spotify and a few other platforms. And each and every week I'll be here with you guys talking baseball, and we're close to hitting 200 subscribers. We appreciate everybody that tunes in and likes and subscribes, but also help us out with sharing this content. Tell a friend. Anything helps. We love interacting with everybody, and this podcast is a great forum for that. So we appreciate everybody, and thank you.
Yep, perfect. Couldn't say better myself. Thanks again. You can find me on Twitter at JMRedwine. That's at letter J, letter M, Redwine, like the drink, but no spaces. And you can also find my audio podcast that I do on rare occasion, which I will be doing tomorrow, Red versus Redwine. You can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Anchor. But other than that, please like, subscribe here. This is our main focus. This is where we throw all of our energy We appreciate you stopping by and watching and letting your friends know. And until next time, go Cards.
Go Cards.